I definitely do think that TL and C9 could be changed. TSM third, I don't really think that they're third. I'm not sure below that because it's all just random. I feel anyone could usually upset who. Like 100 Thieves though, they're probably last. Let's be real. Last split, we had 2 weeks left to make it to playoffs. And then we didn't make the playoffs in those 2 weeks, because of a Zillion game. So there's a potential to make 99 still and whip out Zillion and repeat history.
I like the idea of bringing up Zillion to repeat history. It's very thematic. Good job, Big, intentional or not. Welcome back to LCS Countdown, where the path to playoffs has 1,048,576 scenarios left, many fraught with danger for certain teams. So let's check in on some of those squads who need to pick up wins to have a chance in the postseason. Mark, so you're going to start with you. What's the team you want to bring up?
I want to talk about CLG because this was a team I thought was in a decent position to go into the playoffs until last weekend when they brought their subs back in and they went 0-2. And they had a video that came out, might have came after this, but included the scene beforehand where they're talking about how even if our subs go 0-2, part of the blame also lays on our starters for not putting us in a better position beforehand. But it seems so weird to me because they were up against Team Liquid, TSM, and C9, and they went 1-3, and then they brought in their subs who went 0-2 against teams close to them in the standings. And their subs have gone 0-4 every time they use them against very beatable teams. And this is who they have left now, and they can still make it, but I was super disappointed with last week. If they miss playoffs, I think that's the week I look at where I'm like, you shot yourself in the foot there.
I'm with you on that, Mark. I bought stock on CLG because their schedule looked so good for them to make it back onto the playoff race, but unfortunately, they decided to just throw it in. Going back to blaming the previous mistakes, I mean, if you want to be like, oh, why am I here? My parents made me blame them, right? Like, you can just keep going. The list never ends. You can't do that. You got to stick to what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Exactly, stay in the moment.
Right. As a player, that feels pretty bad for your coach to put the blame onto you when you have tough teams. You just can't win every game. It should be like a teamwork kind of thing, It's on the coach and the players, and if the coaches want more, power in a way or more credibility to them, they need to take fault for losses and wins as well, right? So it feels kind of bad as a player point of view to hear that.
Yeah, and of course, again, the main roster being 5-5 means they clearly are good enough to keep getting wins. Now they're sitting one game outside of playoffs.
Right, if you just extrapolated, which I know you can't exactly do, but based off the fact that they played 3 teams out of playoffs with their subs and went 0-4, if the roster was 7-7 right now, they're in playoffs in one of the best positions in the league if they just stuck with what everyone knows is their kind of best roster.
Yeah, and they can win most of their last 4, and they are likely to make that run. Let's move on. Teams, though, high. Who do you want to bring up?
Right. I think Optic Gaming actually has a pretty good chance of qualifying in. They have a very strong mid laner, Crown, one of the best in North America. And you need a pillar to bring you victories, and they can always rely on him. Outside of that, however, they also have 2 junglers that they can bring in and out depending on if they want to play Lee Sin or Sejuani. Like we've seen Meteos' 60-minute power-up on Lee Sin, right? So we might want Dardoch's 10-minute power-up on Lee Sin in other games, that kind of stuff.
Crash
and
course.
then they arguably have 3 relatively easy matches compared to a lot of the other teams in the split still, so I believe they have a pretty good chance of moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, a number of teams have 3 opponents also battling for playoffs, and you need to prove that you deserve to be there. And I think Optic has a really good chance as well.
I mean, with Crown, you're having a world champion mid laner. That's just such a huge boost of confidence. I feel like if you're a jungler, you just know that I can just go mid. No matter what, I can go mid, and I'm going to be good. So that switch up, I don't think is such big a deal.
Yep, okay, so Optic in a pretty good spot. Team I want to bring up is 100 Thieves here. I think they actually do have the easiest road ahead. They have 4 easy opponents, or at least the easiest you could kind of get here at this point. And I do want to point out that even though they are sitting in last, you think back to their losses, 3 of those 4 recent losses were to the top 3 teams in North America. Those are expected losses, and they made those games look close. You play the top teams in NA close, you should be able to close those games out against the weaker squads. A 4-0 run for the Thieves would not be unheard of. It would bring them up to 8-10 in striking distance of these squads. 8 wins right now would put you in playoffs, so I think they have a good chance at making the run at a 5th or 6th place spot. They also, looking at the records, would not lose any head-to-head tiebreakers against any of those squads up there, so a tie for 6th, if you're good enough, you just win that game and get over.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is they're the last place team, so anytime you say, their schedule looks easy, it's maybe from another team's perspective,
right.
But they only have a winning record right now against Clutch, who they have a 2-0 over, and I think they're 1-0 over CLG. And those are the only teams that they really have winning records over, 1-1 versus Golden Guardians. So it's not like they only got 0-2'd by the top teams.
Yeah.
They're losing to other teams too, which makes that strength of schedule, while easier than the opponents, you have to remember it is still coming from the 10th place perspective.
They do have to step up. I just think that they
Right.
can. Right?
Yes.
That level of player is too good to not have the chance stepping up.
In their last few games, there's been a lot of flack on a few of their players, and whether that was warranted or not, they didn't seem those strong, even though they're playing strong teams. And I think even if they have an easy schedule, they're also last place team, so wouldn't they be an easy opponent to beat from the other end from the players?
Yeah, I think you can look positively on either end, and we'll see which one actually comes out. Crumbs, you're the last one here. Give me a team you want to talk about.
Well, we were talking about easy strength of schedule. We're going to contrast it with the hardest strength of schedule there is remaining, Clutch Gaming. This schedule is as bad as Group C in Worlds, which is really unfortunate, by the way, but they have been onto a strategy that could legitimately allow them to become a dark horse. The Irelia in the bottom lane. Piglet has been playing this champion 3-0 so far. Teams seem to not care about it, and they are not banning it. So I'm expecting Clutch Gaming to double down on this. And are you asking me, is it too late to do it? Oh, maybe, maybe not. EU just played it yesterday, as we saw Fnatic in G2 game, and a non-standard AD carry bottom lane. I think this helps them out. But we have to be realistic with this. And what does it look like for Clutch Gaming to make it into playoffs? Okay, one team forgets to ban Irelia, another one throws, another one tilts, and then you play your heart out in the last one. You're looking at a playoff run right there,
What
my
a pitch.
friend.
Sounds like none of that was based off what they could do, just the enemy team.
And on top of that, we got to go with some actual odds for this because we got to be realistic to the stats as well. So I'm giving Clutch Gaming's chances for playoffs 3 Irelias to 11 Kaisas.
What does that like roughly break out to?
Odds out of this world.
Okay, because I would give them 0 Aurelius. I
Unreal.
think they have no chance. You're looking at that strength of schedule and who they have left. Team Liquid and C9 are both such difficult games. Like, even if they don't ban...
And TSM, I believe.
Yeah, even if they don't ban Aurelia, like, is Doublelift really going to get crushed by the Aurelia bot lane? I have a hard time imagining that.
They got to throw. That's the throw game.
Oh, that's the throw game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're backed into a corner, right? And we know with bears, if you're backed in the corner, they're going to mess you up, right? So maybe Clutch Gaming is just going to secretly bring out the bear inside of them.
Yeah.
Great.
And to be fair, there, like you were saying, there are other things than the Aurelia you can play bot lane. We've seen people do the Yasuo and the Cassiopeia, Swain, Ryze. Why not? You can play whatever.
And to be clear, Clutch have to make up one game, even if the rest of the league goes 0, like all of the 9 teams go 0-4, they still have to make up a game on the way over, and then keep up with further wins against harder opponents than the rest of the teams play. So it is difficult, theoretically possible. We've seen crazy stuff. Either way, let's talk about predictions for the day. Probably not a lot of Clutch predictions here, I'm gonna guess. Games 1 and 5 have different predictions. Optic CLG, again, a really big battle for
What is High doing?
CLG is 1 game behind. Also, 100 Thieves over FlyQuest is a shock.
Honestly, I just wanted to try something new. I'm not gonna lie, Mark is really close to me in the standings, and I figured if I were to vote for FlyQuest, it'd keep it equal between us, like what we're voting for. So I want to make it a bit more fun.
Yeah.
I don't have that much
So
faith behind
it's like
them.
you're trying subs out from ahead. Like,
yeah,
It's like he
C9.
saw your homework and then said, well, he can. If he's wrong, I can just choose the opposite, and I can be right.
Well, I think he's right, to be honest. I just want to have some fun.
Well, I said CLG, so you might not need it to. I might tank my own record.
so you just
Or maybe we're just both tanking.
CLG, really? CLG.
Yeah, I think their starters are actually back in this week, which is one of the main reasons that they're not doing anything with subs. And I think Optic has looked better in recent weeks going for these really early game focused strategies. And I'm hoping they see that coming and they can ban out some of the Kalista, Draven type stuff that's coming up from
Thresh,
the bot lane.
maybe.
See,
Yeah, the Thresh.
Prescribe him.
Well, it is
Thresh
big
ban.
Thresh, so I don't know.
But
Yeah, still ban it.
I think a big difference is that when PoE was trying to carry on the Rise, the team did not let him. It's like the team threw itself at it to prevent
They
this guy
want the
from
glory,
winning.
you know? Like
right?
when the game is ending, it pins down the Nexus. I like having my character inside of there, you know?
Yeah, you got to be.
I got to be there. Otherwise, I wasn't part of the win.
But for Optic, they tell Crown like, you can do it. We'll let you carry.
Yeah.
You don't need to take the glory. We're fine letting you have them. I think that goes a long ways right now.
It was with the subs though, so you have to wonder like if, you know, Stixxay was in there or Wiggily, maybe they would have been like, hey guys, let's not go try and cramp his style. Let Ryze solo win the game. We just got to stop recalls. Hard to know.
Okay, well, game 1 is on the horizon. Let's send it over to Pastry and Azael for Optic versus CLG.
Thank you, Freak. I'm very glad that Azael has returned from his scouting trip, I guess.
I was working hard.
Yeah, that was a very quick flight as well. Whoever you got back. We are ready, of course, for Optic versus CLG to kick off week 8 of the LCS. As you can see, intended 5, I guess we'll call them, for CLG are back starting once again. But both these teams have a lot to think about as we move into the final weeks of the LCS.
Yeah, they really do need to start picking up those wins. Mark had been talking about it, though. CLG, with their, you want to call it intended starting roster or assumed starting roster, is actually 5-5, right? It's with these subs that they really have been faltering, 0-4, when switching away from these 5 that we're seeing sitting here on the stage. So certainly do have a good shot at picking up a win here today. And both them and Optic really need to fight and scrape for every win that they can get, because we're in week 8 and there's not a lot of games to give.
Yeah, and Optic have an interesting approach, I guess, given where they are in the standings. We've seen 6-man, 7-man rosters before be somewhat effective in NA, but them really committing to using both Dardoch and Meteos, 2 very talented players, I will have to add. And I think when Optic have looked good, I've actually been really impressed by the individual skill of their players. They've put together the ends of some games in maybe some more messy ways, but they have still picked up wins pretty scrappily. And I think if they can find a level of consistency, which they will need if they A, make the playoffs, and then B, perform well there, they could have a lot of success. But every team will be fighting it out from this point onward as we do move ourselves into Champion Select. There is Draven on the CLG side, banned away from Arrow, and Neeko also going to get banned away.
Yeah, very interesting. So Neeko has actually been hotfix nerfed, but still it is showing up sometimes around the world. We actually saw it against Griffin, actually taking them down. So, it is still a very popular pick, especially in the top lane. I think bot lane on hit Neeko has kind of fallen off, at least it's in solo queue, but still a pick to be nervous about. Draven, we are seeing a lot of Draven players receiving those bans these days, as so many people are trying to go for more of kind of the scaling, low lane power, marksman, things like Ezreal coming out, even things like Jinx being brought up by Wild Turtle. You do have a really hard time going up against Draven with those sorts of carries. You really can't match his early game power. So even a Vayne ban, wow.
I was going to say, I was about to put Vayne in the same category as the other marksman you mentioned. So it is actually a ban from Optic away from Stixxay.
And I think that makes some sense if you're reading into, okay, well, they're banning Draven. Why are they banning Draven? What are they trying to protect? And something like Vayne, I would say that's probably Vayne's worst matchup as far as the marksmen do go. Vayne has been showing up across the world here and there. Certainly is looking more and more effective, I think, into multiple different compositions. It has a really strong 2 items as well. So it'll be interesting to see if CLG does want to go for more of that hyper-scaling style, because I think at Crit Marksman, we're kind of more where Stixxay has had most of his success in the past. When you think back to the Tristana, winning his championship, the Caitlyn that he was kind of famous for playing at MSI, and champions along those lines. And it's also Stixxay's birthday, I do believe. So happy birthday,
That's
Stixxay.
right. Happy birthday, Stixxay. And Freak! Also his birthday.
Less important. Much less important.
100% agree. As Thresh, LeBlanc, Zoe rounded out our bans. And first pick, Rek'Sai here for Wiggily, who is again moving back onto the stage this week. This is a champion we've seen a ton of, but Ashe also been popping up more. Arrow will take it here, and Big will take Tahm Kench for himself as well.
Yeah, Tahm Kench just brings so much safety, and the ultimate, these players are getting so good at actually using the Abyssal Voyage to move around the map, not only to answer split push, but also collapsing on players who are at an objective, moving around the map to be able to shove out a wave and then answer a push somewhere else. So it really is a very, very versatile champion. Doesn't have a lot of laning power, but the Ashe certainly is a strong laning marksman. Also going to be bringing a primary form of engage there for Optic, and I think a lot of these teams, especially those who aren't right at the top of the standings, have been having a lot more success when pairing themselves up with 2-3 forms of engage, because it's giving themselves more opportunities to find those fights that they need to close out games, and that's generally where these teams have been struggling.
It's also Bio's most played and winning his champion by a mile this split, so I like the block there as well. As a response, he will take Braum, so wanting to bring a bit more aggression into the 2v2. And NA Jayce rears his head again, does have flexibility. We've seen it mostly top, but of course can go mid. We've seen it jungle. Certainly a lot you can do with this champion.
Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see where it goes. Has been mostly used as a blind pick top. A lot of top laners feeling that this is a very, very safe pick, but Yorick is actually quite a strong answer into the Jayce. Dhokla is a Yorick player. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. That being said, it still could be a Jayce flex to mid and they try to counterpick top, so I would like to see Optic banning out some of the traditional counters that we've been seeing in the LCS, like a Jax perhaps, even things along the lines of Fiora can be very, very powerful. Counter Gaming also going to have to take into consideration that they are very physical damage heavy right now, with Rek'Sai going to be building a lot of AD, Jayce as well. If you're assuming a standard marksman in the bot lane, that is mostly physical damage, and then they would want to bring in a mage somewhere else, so that does maybe throw a bit of a wrench in the gear if you're trying to actually counterpick top, and Jax will be taken off as advised.
Yep, there is that first ban there. We'll see how CLG look to respond. Certainly, again, with a pick like Jayce, you have a lot of different options moving into the second phase of the drafts. But seconds run down, CLG select Nocturne. They're taking that away from Meteos, one of his highest presence champions this split as well.
Yeah, I think that makes quite a bit of sense. It's been such a strong pick in the LCS. I wouldn't mind seeing the Olaf even coming out for Meteos, though, something to match a bit of the early game power here from Rek'Sai. One of the times at which you're going to struggle most as the Yorick is in those early levels against Jayce, where that range advantage is going to make such a big difference. And if Rek'Sai is up there and you don't have the ability to actually look for 2v2s at all, because you pick something more like a scaling jungler, then you could certainly struggle. So will be interesting to see where they elect to go with that pick. Jax was the only top lane protection ban, so they're not going to be too worried, I guess, about something like a Fiora or Aurelia or anything like that being swapped around and thrown up there. Those haven't really been shown much in the LCS as answers to the Yorick, and honestly, the Yorick just hasn't been very successful in the LCS, as I believe it is still sitting at a 0% win rate in our league.
Not looking great as Syndra banned away from Crown, so potentially protecting that Jayce Little or just taking a good mid laner off the table. Ezreal was also banned away from Stixxay, so Optic may be inciting something like Kai'Sa, which would help with the damage profile, but laning-wise might not be too hot. We'll see what Optic want to do here, though. And then we'll see how CLG finish off this comp. A lot of questions that Optic are asking themselves looking ahead to Jayce. So Optic decide to play it safe and take a very solid jungler here for Meteos. They'll lock in Sejuani.
Yeah, Sejuani also pairing up pretty well with Yorick because it is another melee champion. So being able to activate that permafrost, lock him down, stun him up, and dealing additional damage there. So certainly is a fairly strong 2v2. And I do think also the CC that Sejuani has makes it very easy to actually set up for your cage, hitting the Morning Mist, your E to actually activate those ghouls attacking your opponent along those lines. So we'll see. It is going to be Sivir in the bottom lane. So very likely will be a mid lane mage here unless they want to go full AD comp. But I don't think that is advisable when you're already facing down a Sejuani who could stack a lot of that armor.
Have to agree. So we'll see what PowerOfEvil fancies as a blind pick here.
Probably
He's played
Ori,
a lot of different
or
champions.
Corki.
Orianna makes no sense.
Viktor, okay.
Viktor he's also played quite a lot of, so I think either of these kind of control mages make sense, and we'll lock in.
Yep, gives them a tremendous amount of wave clear. And when you're looking at Jayce compositions, you are expecting it to be a split push style victory, right? So now you have Sivir and Viktor. That is two of the highest wave clear champions in their respective positions. So these guys are going to be able to really hold it down in the mid lane, be able to continuously push those waves out and make it so it's very difficult for Optic to kind of siege away from that Jayce. Vel'Koz as the last pick from Braum.
Just next to Vladimir, I guess, which was the other hover, but I believe that's the first Vel'Koz of the split. It is certainly the first Vel'Koz for Crown, who has played a large array of different champions so far, but he did get counterpicked. This is what he's selected.
Very, very cool. So it is a very long-range champion, and certainly is something that Viktor, I think, is going to have trouble actually interacting with. You're not going to be able to get much of that Q trading pattern that Viktor really does desire. This certainly will be down to PowerOfEvil kind of hitting his lasers with the E. But if Crown is practiced on this pick, you can stay very far back and be continuously poking away at that Viktor. We also know just how much kill potential Vel'Koz has. If you can actually land the knock-up, proc your passive with that W, drop an ultimate, that is a tremendous amount of burst. You can light someone up 100-0.
And between the Sejuani and the Ashe, plenty of ways to set that up. Even the cage for Dhokla potentially putting it all together. So PowerOfEvil has had to play the cleanse tax. It's very heavy this game, so glad he's showing the respect. But an exciting final pick here for Optic, for a player that has been very impressive despite the up and down nature of the team. Crown has looked great since he's moved to the LCS.
Yeah, he certainly has been their standout player, and this is a very exciting pick. We have seen Vel'Koz filtering through the LCS in past years, utilized as a counter pick in certain matchups, and I'm very excited to see how Crown will look on it, because I think this is a champion with an incredibly high skill cap. You can tell the mastery of these Vel'Koz players based on how they're picking their angles, based on how they're redirecting their Qs and bending them around minions for that harass.
Well, certainly exciting here as CLG and Optic will square off for our first match today. Both looking to kind of stop some of their slides. For CLG, it was a rough weekend last time around. Optic have been up and down or split long on their side, but certainly every win matters given how late we are in the season.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, this is second to last week, and it's kind of crazy how fast it feels like the spring split has gone by.
Every split
I
feels
know.
the same way.
As soon as the split starts, all of a sudden it's playoffs, then it's MSI, and then you're like, well, summer starts, and now it's Worlds, and okay, where'd the year go? But it's going to be an exciting one here as we are going to get into pause. We'll let you guys know as soon as we have found out what the issue is. But some interesting things to talk about with the runes, as it is actually going to be a press the attack Rek'Sai here for Wiggily. Conqueror certainly had been the most popular choice by far, and one of the things that kind of brought Rek'Sai back into the meta. But Conqueror has now received a number of repeated nerfs, and we're seeing these Rek'Sai players kind of branch out. Conqueror still can work, but we are seeing some press the attack, we are seeing some electrocute, we are seeing, various different options kind of popping up here for these players, and it's interesting to see exactly where they are going to go, but we're seeing some ready calls in the lobby, so I do believe we should be getting back into this.
Certainly seems like it. We'll let you know, of course, as soon as that happens. Just checking through with the other keystones, nothing super surprising. We have Comet there for Crown, which has been a relatively popular option in mid for a while. And of course, Tahm Kench taking a pretty standard spellbook, but always nice to see these sort of very creative keystones being used from the support role.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the choices, right? You can see that Biofrost is actually going to be playing Guardian Braum, and as such, he's going to be taking heal as well. So this is a very kind of defensive setup here for him. Stixxay wanted to go for a TP on the Sivir to have a little bit more lane tempo to be able to actually get a good buy off and hopefully try to keep arrow pushed in. So we'll see how they're going to be able to navigate all of that. Will be pretty interesting, and it's also fleet footwork for the Sivir. So definitely more of a defensive setup here for the CLG bot lane.
I think in general, given Viktor plus Sivir, I mean, you said it already, two of the best wave clear champions in their respective positions. I think Sivir arguably the best as a bot lane, and Viktor is competing with the likes of, say, Anivia, but certainly both can do a good job of stalling out the game, and I feel like it's almost becoming like a signature of the organization, not even just this iteration of CLG, that, you know what, sometimes the games are long, but generally they've been quite successful at playing for that late game. CLG games, on average this split, have been almost exhaustively long.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're drafting for the late game win condition, that's a totally fine way to play the game, right? You're going to draft Sivir, you're going to draft Viktor. These are champions that are going to be scaling very well up to that 6-item stage and going to be monsters at that point. The question, though, becomes, okay, well, you have kind of some late game insurance here, but the Jayce and certainly the Rek'Sai are more of the early game flavor style of champions. These are guys that want to have advantages going into those later stages and don't teamfight as well on even keel. And especially when you're looking at a Jayce into Dhokla playing this Yorick, who is actually a very experienced Yorick player, I think that can become a fairly tough matchup for the Jayce unless you're able to constantly actually dodge out of those morning mists, which is the E thrown out there by Ghoul, by the Yorick to actually proc those ghouls onto you. So we'll see how he's going to be able to do, and I think the 2v2 top lane matters a lot.
Certainly in the early game especially, but even as the game continues on, you mentioned that with Jayce, it turns into some sort of 4-1 game. You really do want Jayce to be mostly in a side lane pressuring and trying to take down structures, but I feel like the game plan is basically the same for Yorick as well, so I'm very curious on your thoughts on, when we get to the mid to late game stages, who's supposed to win that 1v1?
I think Yorick actually can win that, certainly. It gets to a stage where generally you're not going to have much lifesteal actually in the build there for Jayce, and Yorick, if he's hitting any of the E's, especially post having the ultimate out, it can become very difficult for Jayce to actually sit around in that lane. And once you're at Triforce, if you're not way behind, you can straight up 1v1 this guy, and then the cage starts to become very, very powerful because he has no kind of defensive escape. His only actual jump is they're going to look for a wraparound here.
Yep, we are back in, and Biofrost, along with Wiggily and Darshan, have looked to try and cut off Dhokla through the tri-bush, but no success. Instead, Optic will invade on the other side and get their vision.
Yeah, so it is all good, but Jayce essentially can only get out of the cage with the offensive jump of the hammer form, right? So you can to the skies, go melee form, jump out, but that generally means you can only jump into the Yorick, which doesn't actually help you if you're losing the fight. So we'll see. I think it's certainly Jayce favored early, but if you are not way ahead of the Yorick, he can take over, and I'm excited to see how this one's going to go.
Certainly excited to see both junglers on either side as well back into the mix. See where they do start. Looks like right side for both. So red for Wiggily and blue for Meteos. And of course, Crown on this Vel'Koz. Last seen in 2018. Bjergsen played it in a regional qualifier, so it's been quite a while since we've seen the Octopus.
Yeah, it definitely has been a while, but was kind of a bit of a popular counter pick for a bit of that split. And just to give a little context, the pause was Big felt his home guard may have ticked off early, running out of base, so wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case. I believe it wasn't, so we are all good. Back into game here. And and it certainly can matter in those early game stages if you're getting to an invade late or something along those lines. And when we're watching this matchup, what you're really going to try to watch for is Dhokla and how he's using the ghouls. He's trying to keep access to this mini wave as much as he can to actually get those graves out. You can see kind of that red hand sticking up. Those are 2 of those graves that he has actually spawned. Getting the 3rd one means you can then summon it, and that's when you can actually have a bit of a chance to fight. But you do have to be careful on the early levels and be willing to give up some of the CS, because Jayce is going to win those fights, certainly until you have a couple levels under your belt. And hits level 2 though, hits the Morning Mist, and you can see Darshan already, his health potion's gone, and he's down under half HP.
Yeah, it's actually pretty crazy that as soon as level 2 hits, that one trade there from Dhokla, able to undo all of the early game from Jayce.
I mean, the lane essentially is completely about how many E's can Yorick hit. Can you constantly get at your ghouls, and can you hit the E's? If Jayce is using kind of his stance swaps and actually dodging a lot of those, then you're not going to have really much recourse to fight back, because he's just going to kill off your ghouls. But if you are hitting them, you can actually do some tricks where you're getting the ghouls prepped, you hit the E, then you summon the ghouls, guaranteeing that they will immediately jump onto them. And ooh, so we see Wiggily having to flash out.
Yeah, he was spotted stealing the Krugs. Meteos was on the red buff, so it does force him away. However, he did steal the camp away, so Meteos will be down the particularly juicy and XP bountiful camp. Dhokla finally getting pushed in. As you said, does need to last hit the minions to get the ghouls going with the Q, so that's kind of the back and forth in the matchup, if you will. But as you said, very experienced, so far so good as he does dodge that shock blast as well.
Yep, and he's actually prepped a lot of graves there, so you know he does have a lot of ghouls, and that's kind of where you have to be careful as Darshan, where you're going to be wanting to try to kill off those ghouls before you opt into any additional trades. And that's going to be a
general rule against Yorick, I feel like. If there is a summon, walk away.
Respect
and the
the
summons
ghouls.
and the maiden. People often disrespect the maiden and get destroyed. As Stixxay and Bio here, we're getting pushed in early. You can see a slight CS lead for Arrow, but it seems pretty minimal. PoE and Khan also doing battle, but PoE with a wave stacked up, looking good right now.
Yeah, and you can see it's pretty even across the map. All of these lanes are going fairly evenly. I do think I would probably be pretty happy about that from the side of Optic, given that Wiggily has his flash down. He's playing the early game jungler. Meteos is going to feel like his lanes are in a much more comfortable position, and certainly Dhokla getting through those early levels without being pressured too heavily is also going to be feeling pretty happy about that matchup.
Certainly so. Just some vision tag there for Crown, helping Meteos, who's trying to steal away a camp on the other side.
Going up top.
Yeah, Wiggily is top, looking for a gank here. Onto Dhokla, excuse me, as he does tunnel forward. Good flash, but the follow is there. Wiggily, no flash. He actually struggles to get the knocker, but he does get it late. It's still enough, and that's first blood over to Darshan.
So close there. The acceleration gate from Jayce actually giving Wiggily the speed he needed on the Rek'Sai to catch up and take down Dhokla, and that was very, very close to him escaping because Wiggily had no flash, but Dhokla does get taken down, and the Jayce gets the first blood, which is so massive.
Yep, TP in from Dhokla, has those parts of a fade, the crystal and the longsword. Stixxay going to try and force Meteos out of the jungle, does do so, and will polish off the rest of the Krug camp. But that first blood gold, a serrated Dirk, nice and fresh there for Darshan, as we'll watch this gank again.
Yeah, here it is one more time. You know, no wards in the area for Dhokla, and Wiggly's coming in behind. Darshan does a good job actually getting behind him and knocking Dhokla away. I think that if Dhokla actually just instantly early flashed, he would have probably been able to walk this one out and survive. So I do think this was a bit poorly played there by Dhokla. If you just flash towards the turret and self-cage, you're going to have the Rek'Sai locked in that and probably be able to escape. He did delay a little bit, gets knocked away, and then the acceleration gate giving the speed up to Wiggily means Rek'Sai catches back up to him, and they do get that first blood on Jayce.
Just 6 now for Dhokla as Wiggily
Go
is
again.
back here in the top lane. Darshan dives in, slaps down the cage with the hammer. Hawk shot checking, but I don't believe it saw Wiggily. Dhokla gonna face check, puts the ward down, but will lose it immediately.
Yep, and that's always a really rough situation because you are going to be nervous of repeat ganks. Thankfully, he did have his trinket ward available there, so you know, not going to be going down again just yet. You can see Meteos heading up towards the top side of the map. He knows that he cannot allow that matchup to snowball. Yorick from behind is pretty darn worthless, so you want to make sure you're kind of playing around that side of the map and trying to at least ward for him, if not gank for him, to keep him relevant in that 1v1.
Plate there for Arrow. The push has kind of continued there for Optic's duo lane despite the CS being even. So a bit of extra gold there for the Ashe. PoE also returning with his first Hex Core upgrade. So now has the laser up with a much easier time to wave clear. as the aftershock effect does happen. Maiden gonna get beaten down by Darshan. Not looking to last too long here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I think this is actually really intelligent, though, by Darshan, because so much of the power is in having that ultimate available. Without that, without ghouls, there's not a lot of power in the Yorick. So you can see as soon as the ultimate came out, and the Morning Mist is actually avoided by Darshan, he dodges that, you can just focus down the ultimate, kill that off. Because the early cooldown on the Yorick ult is actually quite long, and so much of your laning power revolves around protecting that ultimate, keeping it alive, backing off at the correct times, and even sometimes basing to have it heal up.
You can see Stixxay was also hanging out in a piece of brush, but Big investigates that. Wiggily back onto the top side of the jungle, looking for again to at least scout out what's happening here. Red buff timer also coming up pretty soon, so see if he maybe thinks about a buff steal here.
And this is actually really tough for Dhokla because he's going to fall way behind Office. He actually had to base, not because he was super low, but because his jungler is playing bottom side of the map towards the dragon, and they don't know where Rek'Sai is. So he knows he could get dove there, and as such, he's having to give up about 3+ waves to this turret, as well as 2 turret plates, and that, even more than the initial gank, is going to put him behind in this 1v1, and now Rek'Sai is still here, going to be zoning him off even more waves, so this CS deficit is certainly being created more by Wiggily than by Darshan, and that is good play to them.
Does mean Infernal over for Optic, who've clearly decided what sides of the map they wish to prioritize. Biofrost is around, but not enough for a steal as Big blocks the Winter's Bite. So Drake goes over, but Dhokla is continuing to have a bad time. And I mean, credit to him for playing it safe, but this just sucks as a top laner.
Yeah, and this is one of these situations where you're very often going to see the top laners getting flamed, and it's like, well, look how far behind he is. Yeah, but he's actually playing it smart to not even die in this situation, and I do think that this is a pretty no-win situation for Dhokla to be put in. Wiggily has put so much pressure to the top side that you can see the gold differential is enormous, right? You know, sure, they got the Infernal down on the bot side, which is going to help you later on, but you have essentially doomed Yorick in this 1v1. It's 3 turret plates over to Darshan, it's first blood over to Darshan, 30 CS advantage as well, created by this discrepancy in jungle pressure up on the top side of the map. So credit to CLG, and we'll see if Optic can get enough elsewhere on the map to really make that trade worthwhile, because as is, bot and mid are even, and top is massively behind.
Yeah, 9-minute ghost played it there for Darshan with an extra longsword to go with it. So it's going to go from bad to worse for a while here, unfortunately for Dhokla. Rest of the map, though, looking pretty even. Junglers are farming up. Mid and AD carry are doing the same. I'm expecting mostly a ton of farming on the bottom half of the map for CLG, if nothing else. As we mentioned, both Viktor and Sivir are happy to just play PvE for quite a while.
Yeah, we could see Optic trying to be a bit more proactive now that they have these ultimates online, though. Hitting level 6 with the Ashe, you could try to look for something. That, as well as Sejuani having the ultimate at level 6. You know, you can start to maybe look to make some plays around some of these lanes, but certainly it is no fun zone up there for Dhokla right now.
Darshan on the hunt for the full 5-course meal. Just one more plate left to take down. Also see some damage being done to but 50% of the second plate's HP there on CLG's outer turret, so Arrow and Big have clearly had a good time just pushing this in, but again, a bit of extra gold here and there is nothing compared to the mountain of gold built up by Darshan and Wiggily there in the top half.
And this may be the game plan, right? You know, I generally think if you're drafting Yorick, you should play around it, but some teams, I think, look at it more as though, we'll pick you Yorick and you just kind of survive, and, you know, if the Jayce ever tries to group, you can take turrets and kind of punish that way, so it may work out for them. And we do have Sejuani up here on the top side of the map, so if we can see Darshan getting caged up, there's a possibility of Meteos being able to hit an ult, or even a potential counter gank, because Wiggily is coming up. Vel'Koz somewhat starting to roam, but is heading back towards mid lane, so this is going to be a 2v2.
Yep, Dhokla now going to get spotted. Cage goes down. Ult's going to miss, though. And now they're going to keep chasing. TP in for Optic, though. Chasing onto Darshan. Needs one more auto for the Permafrost. Does find it. There's Crown with the laser as Meteos is able to grab the kill.
Really nice roam up there from Crown, and you can see Arrow even shot the arrow up towards top lane. It did connect with PowerOfEvil, so well done. I mean, they're there on the counter gank. Darshan does flash out on the Sejuani ultimate, but they get the kill. They chase him down. They're now onto Rift Herald, so you know, well played to them. They gave up some early disadvantages, but being able to get a lot of that back, and PowerOfEvil
slowed,
pressured.
Big continuing to open fire as Crown did land the combo there, starting with the knock-up, but Biofrost's going to join to make sure he stays a bit safer. CLG TPing in. Wiggily already dived into the pit to try and get Meteos off the Herald. Looks like the eye was picked up, though, I believe.
Yep, we did see Dhokla actually grab it, so no problem for him. He'll have the Empowered Recall, will reset. He's going to lose this turret, but he was going to lose that turret anyway, let's be honest. So, not that big of a deal, and a nice turn of events there for Optic. Certainly doesn't help out Dhokla too much just yet. It will relieve a little bit of pressure, but he didn't pick up the kill. He didn't get any of the gold from that, so he's still going to be very far behind, and even more so once this turret does fall. But still, all things considered, across the map, it was a good play for Optic, and we'll see if they can get some turret plays of their own, with this Rift Herald. That'll even out some of the gold even more.
Feels like for the early game, both teams sort of enacting their intended plans here. So we'll see if Darshan can continue to snowball through and take over the game like Jayce is known to towards the early and mid-game stages. There is also second Infernal up in 50 seconds, so Optic would love to add another one alongside their first, but maybe CLG fancy some sort of scuffle around the area instead.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if they want to try to contest forward. I think CLG would be smart to utilize Darshan to roam down and try to actually pressure that, because they do have the gold lead now. You now want to kind of bring back what you have put into Darshan and get something out of it for the rest of the map, because giving over a double Infernal advantage to this Optic team certainly erases a lot of any doubts that you have about their scaling, as that is going to help you a lot when you get to those later stages of the game, especially for the Ashe, Vel'Koz, and Yorick here. But for now, it is actually Darshan just staying up top. He may be roaming down now, but Optic do have TP advantage.
Yeah, Crown continuing to poke, has finished his loot, and Biofrost will catch him though. Needs one more auto attack. Flash there from Crown. Good ult from Meteos actually. Provides some coverages. Here's Arrow and Big. Meteos, we're going to go back around. Biofrost, EC Enchanter, Crystal Arrow. There's the laser, and out from Vel'Koz as Bio is forced to flash away. Now Big is going to devour Arrow to keep him safe as PowerOfEvil let rip the ulti. There's the ult from Wiggily trying to get in and execute Big, but he flashes out to safety, barely in time.
Yeah, Optic just kind of tried to chase through the gravity field there that PowerOfEvil had dropped over the wall, and it puts them in such an awkward spot as they are getting absolutely chunked down. They will lose positioning around this dragon. It should be an easy Infernal going the way after CLG did push them out.
Also, red buff steal for Darshan as a result of that as well, who did roam down to try and assist on the play. So there is Infernal over to CLG. They'll equalize here. They're actually getting strong damage onto this outer turret in bot lane. Trying to equalize there as well. It won't be enough to take it down by the looks of things. Need another wave at least. And Big will return to cover it, but you can see that plate gold for CLG. That is almost all Darshan in the top lane.
Yeah, and that's part of that huge gold lead that he has amassed. First blood, a bunch of turret plates, the turret gold, local gold going to him as well. So certainly going to be feeling really good about that. And the fact that, Stixxay now on the Essence Reaver has actually completed his item, getting a CS advantage for himself here too. Looking nice. They've equalized in the Dragons, and it's pretty interesting to see the Essence Reaver coming out here for Stixxay. A lot of pros that I've talked to really seem to favor the Infinity Edge very heavily. But I will say that Essence Reaver does bring a lot of utility in that CDR is going to be very nice for lower cooldown on your ultimates. And also just having the mana refresh on auto attacks means you can essentially have infinite wave clear, right? You can sit very comfortably, if you want to send Viktor out to a side lane in that mid lane, and you can just clear out the waves over and over and over using only abilities and making it very safe and repeatable there for the Sivir.
I feel like the way it's been...
That is not the rift you want to see.
Oh yeah, thundered back as well. Darshan actually not going to let it get to the turret.
Yeah, that was really poorly done, honestly, from Dhokla. That's not the kind of rift you want to see come out from Optic, as that was a lot of what they got from that top lane play, right? And they get absolutely nothing. He doesn't even get a charge. If you're going to drop it in the face of the Jayce, you can't fight him even with that. You're too far behind.
Yep, was too late for plates. Was not in range to get damage onto the turret, so somewhat of a waste there for Dhokla. As Infernal number 3 is apparently coming up next, so it's I guess they know the CLG playing. They knew they were going to go to the late game, because the game is certainly obliging in that regard. TP in there from CLG. They're trying to force that Stixxay, never mind. Every awkward TP is always an ADC. Always. Meteos tagged. Gets away though. Biofrost putting up the door. Now actually have to run away himself. Ulti gonna just miss. Bio did stand behind Stixxay to get to safety.
Yeah, even if they hit that, I don't think they actually get a kill. Because, I mean, really, if it's going to hit on a Biofrost or someone, Arrow is over the wall in the pit. Vel'Koz is there, but not sure if you can actually 100-0 the Guardian Braum, who has heal available. Either way, a good attempt, and they will defend in mid lane for now. But it is CLG going to be able to grab a bottom lane turret since there's no one there to answer. And Dhokla using this time to try to push up and get some farm back, try to equalize a little bit. Really, that's going to be his job, is just sitting in the side lane, staying there. Anytime Jayce roams away, you want to have him getting up the turrets, trying to get something done.
Yeah, but again, CLG have enough people to push the side lanes. As I was alluding to earlier, again, IE versus SM3 has kind of been explained as well. IE does something when you buy it as a first item. You know, you can fight, like, it does damage, you can fight people, you can be in scuffles. SM3 is like the PvE item. It's like, it doesn't do much by itself. But of course, combined with other items, like another Zeal item and the Infinity Edge that inevitably will come, it does a lot. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, if I'm just planning to ricochet minions for the next 10, 15 minutes, SM3 is a great item for that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, you know, you don't want to sell too short. It certainly does have less upfront damage than the IE, which, you know, is going to be more AD as well as the bonus on the crit. But it still has 25% crit as well as the 65 AD, so it will give you power. It's just the IE certainly is more immediate power and in-combat power. And if you're not worried about mana, if you're looking at kind of the one-off fight, IE is going to give you more oomph, especially when you hit your second item with that, say, Static Shiv or whatever completed, amplifying that crit damage even more.
And amplifying the wave clear.
That's true.
That's always what you want to see. Speaking of, PoE has upgraded to the perfect hex score. It's been there for a short while. And also a change moving in towards a Lich Bane.
Oh,
Vel'Koz looking to laser beam down Wiggily, who is forced to flash away.
That's the damage I'm talking about, though. If you get hit by a knockup, that is essentially guaranteeing both sides of the W hit you. That is a passive proc. That plus the ultimate can kill someone if you land that full combo. I mean, that is Wiggily flashing out, plus the Guardian there from Braum, and he's still got very, very low. So you are seeing the power that Vel'Koz has here as Darshan looking to roam down and put a little pressure on.
Pretty significant chunk of damage there. Black Cleaver is not finished for Darshan, so going a slightly different route than all lethality all the time, but still pumping out plenty of damage at this stage in the game.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, this sort of build allows you to be a little bit more kind of in the face of some of your opponents if you want to come down for a team fight. Having a little bit of HP instead of going something pure lethality does allow you to kind of scrap with your opponents a bit more. And despite the fact that I said, you know, normally when you hit Triforce, that can be a pretty good time in the matchup for Yorick, he is so far behind in the gold that all these benchmarks really are irrelevant now. You know, you have to kind of be near parity to really be able to compete. Whether it's a good matchup or not is pretty irrelevant when you're down a full item.
Yep, and you can see CLG continuing to have run of the map. Pretty heavy siege onto mid lane here as Darshan is sticking down, leaving Dhokla with the minion wave in top lane as CLG trying to get that second Infernal. It seems like Optic can't make it in time, so we'll just have to gift that objective over.
Yeah, and I mean, they can't really fight for it. If Darshan is going to walk down as he was, their top laner is just so much weaker right now. That they're not really going to be able to win any realistic 5v5. You know, they have to be very careful about that. Arrow also didn't have his ultimate up, so, you know, there's even more to worry about there. What this does buy is a bit of time for Dhokla, so he's going to be able to knock down that turret. And, you know, even from behind, as soon as you have the Triforce, you will crush through turrets with your ghouls, with the ultimate out, the Sheen proc, the attack speed. Now, that is going to give you a lot of power to knock that down.
Yep, had Demolish as well, of course, from the Resolve tree, so able to polish off the turret in pretty quick succession. So we'll have another pause. We'll let you know as soon as we know what's going on. But we'll just settle in for now and kind of see where we are at 20 minutes in. There's been 3 Infernals taken, which is often an exciting one, but only 2 kills means it's been kind of a lot more about how the lane matchups and pressure across the map has played out than anything else.
Yeah, it really has been about the pressure that CLG has put down on the top side, and that, you know, was traded for the early Infernal for Optic on the bot side, but now, you know, they've been able to kind of use their monumental top lane advantage to be able to recoup a lot of that, right? To be able to get both the next 2 Infernals and put themselves in a really good position. Especially the Infernal is so good for their composition. You have 4 members who are going to be building ADAP, right? They don't even have the tank jungler. They are going to be having Rek'Sai on Warrior Black Cleaver soon, so he's getting that amp damage. Viktor, Sivir, Jayce, of course, all getting that amp damage as well.
Just to kind of look at the gold itself, we've talked a lot about how strong Jayce is, but if you look there on your screen, you can see between the 2 teams, it's about 3,000 gold ahead for CLG. Darshan is up 2,300 gold. So as far as the total percentage of gold lead owned just by Darshan is pretty ridiculous. And kind of a testament to how far ahead he is. You can see he had a great Jax game last weekend, kind of carrying the game from there. And it seems like the team is willing to put him back on these kind of carries and just have faith that he'll be able to do his thing.
And there is, to give you a little bit of context, it's a visual bug rate on the side of CLG, so they are actually seeing kind of the eyes above your head that show that you have been spotted by Hawkshot, even though the Hawkshot is not active. So it is not giving optic vision. It is simply a visual bug above some of the CLG members' heads. So we are paused for that, checking that out if it's going to be okay to resume or if they can quickly fix that. Hopefully we will be able to get right back into the game.
Certainly have to hope so. I assume that's the same set of eyes that like Scry's Bloom?
I think it's the same idea. Yeah, it's just the indicator that you have been spotted, even though they have not been spotted currently.
That would be very unnerving.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that is something that could be pretty distracting, especially if you're not sure if the Hawkshot did just recently go out, right? You don't know necessarily if you have those eyes on you or not.
Never know who's watching. I'm watching, but I can see everything, so.
Okay, that just got creepy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't worry, I never said that. It's okay. We'll check back in on the items. No static shiv, unfortunately for Stixxay. It is RFC instead, but not too much difference, it feels like.
No, I mean, and I think that having an RFC is yes, it's less wave clear, it's like less potential power, but Rapid Fire just feels so good for these ADs to build simply because it's giving you that one long range auto where you actually have more opportunities to kind of either chase someone down and get that final hit, or even be able to get an auto off on someone who's going to outrange you very heavily like a Vel'Koz or even the Ashe, where you might otherwise not be able to kind of get access to getting that damage down on them. So, you know, it is certainly, I think, a comfort item for a lot of players, and it's something that just has like so many, it just feels really good to play with, basically, right? Even for sieging, you know, playing something like the Sivir, you are very short range and it can be difficult to walk up to the turrets, but at the very least you can use those rapid fire procs on the turrets to kind of slowly try to chip them down.
Yeah, it is of course like percentage range increase for that auto. I think when that change was made, everyone immediately thought of something like Caitlyn was the obvious one where it's like, finally I can shoot the turret from outside. Turns out, much like move speed, extra range is a stat that is very hard to come by in League of Legends. So if you give it to even little Sivir with her short auto attack range, she'll be very happy as we pop ourselves back onto the rift.
Yep, even Stormrazor, right? You know, that has been buffed recently, so I'm seeing some players buying it, certainly as a later item, but you can do some pretty funny stuff, especially with the long-range marksman, where you are going fleet and you go into a rapid fire and you get the Stormrazor, and then you are very far outrange the turret, and you can kind of just poke down turrets from outside of their range, as well as having these really ridiculously long auto attacks, but still not seeing much.
I'm not sure that's the timeline I'm down for, to be perfectly honest with you.
If that becomes a strategy, then I hope they delete that item, but we'll see.
All right, back into the thick of things here. We did move Stixxay up to the top lane for CLG, so he's busy back on wave clear duty, but is approaching 3 items with relative ease, given how the game has been pretty quiet on most fronts, with the exception of that top lane. There are still outer mid turrets to knock down, which everyone knows is always the most highly prized turret. Rightly so, it is the best lane. But it just seems like mages are wave clearing back and forth, and neither Vel'Koz or Viktor are very good at letting people hit turrets.
Yeah, Vel'Koz has really strong wave clear as well, and you can see them heading down towards the bottom side. I don't know if they want to try to turn and fight this. The Maiden is going to go down, so you have to certainly retreat now, but Darshan, I think, showing a lot of understanding of how this sort of matchup should be played, and you know, understanding that you need to prioritize the tools, you need to prioritize taking down the ultimate to reduce a lot of Dhokla's power. Certainly with that massive gold advantage he has, there's no chance that Dhokla can pressure him without it.
Instead, backs up. Now back to hitting the minions. That CS lead is ballooning up 60 ahead right now, as Dhokla does return with his next component, but he is a long way away from item number 2.
And if you take a look here at these 3 bounties, those are the players that Optic really needs to actually focus on. If you can take down those members, you are looking at 1,650 gold that could actually, you know, swing the way of Optic and really start to close things up. So that is kind of what they have to pay attention to, not only because of those bounties, but because those are extremely strong members on the other side, and you need to be able to play well around those carries.
And again, for as strong as Jayce can be at a lot of stages of the game, it feels like as it gets later, if you ever get picked off, when you're brought to some sort of really big brawly 5v5, his effectiveness drops pretty rapidly. So I mentioned already, Darshan has the lion's share of the total gold lead that CLG have in this game. So a death from him would be extremely costly for a bunch of different reasons. And right now is respecting some of the lack of vision in the right-hand side jungle, but looks like CLG are firmly trying to just pressure the tier 2 here in top lane and force Optic to meet them there.
Yeah, and you can tell that the vision battle is kind of beginning around the Baron buff, and it's less about getting vision necessarily in the Baron pit itself. and more about actually getting it in this top jungle side, right? So it's this quadrant here that I'm highlighting on the mini-map now, and you can see they're really going to try to be battling back and forth, establishing vision in that area to allow themselves to kind of either create pick opportunities where you're going to have Optic face checking in and being able to take them down, or just denying them from even warding over into the pit, and then you can maybe start up a Baron and sneak that or rush that down when you do have this much damage on the squad. So such a focus happens in this area, and this is where a lot of the pro teams in our league have been struggling more as how to cleanly close out games because they aren't able to fully establish that vision control.
Yeah, even harder with this turret still being up for both sides as well. Ult there from Meteos tags Biofrost, but not much to come of that, unfortunately, for Optic.
But they're just trying to buy time, right? You see Jayce roam up, you say, okay, great, we clear the wave, we wait for Dhokla to do something on the other side of the map. And they have opted into this, and they are certainly very far behind in that bottom lane as Dhokla is way down in Darshan. So they have to play very carefully, they have to play very patiently and bide their time. So, Meteos throwing out that ultimate just almost as a disengaging ultimate, I think is certainly reasonable.
Also, there's another Drake up in 20 seconds or so Stixxay will have to move from his temporary home in the top lane and go find CS somewhere else.
Yeah, and you can see that Optic is actually scared to walk up through that jungle to be able to even pick up the wave on the top side. So you're looking up here in the top side of the map, and these minions right here are all essentially dying to the turret because they don't have vision in that top side jungle. So they're unwilling to actually walk through that dark area because they're saying, okay, well, what if Wiggily is waiting there? What if someone is waiting there and you do get picked off? And both Arrow and Crown were unwilling to actually walk up, which means they're going to be bleeding out more gold. They are going to be falling further behind as CLG is collecting all three waves.
That pressure from Crown, though, he just ulted Biofrost straight up and looked like he almost might grab a kill. It does give them the Mountain Drake, so Dhokla also getting the bottom outer turret as Darshan roamed up once more. Means that Optic finally equalized back in turrets, but again, this is a very long map. These games don't happen that often, but having two really long side lanes and an extremely short mid lane with the outer turret still being up is often a very maneuvering heavy kind of game.
It certainly is, and Optic knows, and that's why they're moving 4 members into this jungle, that they essentially only control one quadrant of the jungle right now. So they are going to fall further and further behind in that gold, right? You need to fight back for this. You need to be able to actually get the vision back and be able to have Meteos farming these camps, or you're going to see not only the carries, but the jungler from CLG pulling away from the rest of the pack. And that is certainly a big reason why you see Stixxay, who's over 60 CS up on Arrow when they were fairly even in lane, right? It's because Stixxay is having the freedom to go up and farm away these camps, farm away that side wave, knowing that they have the vision, knowing that they have the safety to do it, and Arrow oftentimes can't.
Stixxay has kind of one goal in mind. It feels like Arrow will not connect. The move speed from Unbreakable, barely enough to get Biofrost away. But Stixxay is closing in on Infinity Edge pretty rapidly. So it's just kind of farming away till that item appears is my guess. And I think CLG have just played very intelligently with the structure of the map. In chess, I think this would be kind of a closed position. There's not a whole lot of maneuvering you can do in the center. But as far as what they need to do, they've done it well, and now they'll try and get a pick on a Meteos. Wiggily finds the knock-up. Flash away there from Sejuani. Big also forced to flash out. The jungle low. Wiggily with the assassination finds the ulti execute. And now Crown also has to run. Forced to use the heal as the Storm was chasing him, but that might be Baron for CLG.
Yeah, they can certainly start it up here. Crown, no summoners. Meteos down. No flash on Big. No heal on Arrow. They are in such a rough spot right now. They do have a couple wards, though, thankfully kind of sneakily placed over on the other side of the river that are going to give them some intel on if CLG starts it up.
For what you were saying earlier, though, about controlling vision in that quadrant, you can see the dividends paying off finally there for CLG. They were consistently roaming in, swooping out vision, putting vision down themselves, and finally someone from Optic overstepped, and they're able to get a few kills. Unfortunately for them, they couldn't convert much after that, and staying here for this turret might cost Biofrost his life. The Abyssal Voyage comes in, there's the laser beam out from Vel'Koz. Goodbye, Bio, as Big grabs the kill.
Yeah, well done. The collapse comes in with the Abyssal Voyage. They do trade back a kill, but it is the mid lane turret finally falling as the trade. So certainly CLG, as you say, controlling all of that vision in that red jungle for so long. Just now that they get a kill, you can see all of Optic is moving over here, and they're actually just kind of going straight onto the Baron. They know that they're up one member, and they've been in this tough to navigate situation, so they're trying to force the Jayce to come to them. They're trying to force them into this choke. We'll see if they can make it happen. Here comes Darshan. The poke is going to be pretty enormous.
Yeah, Baron's pretty low as well. Wiggily
Darshan
might just have to go
stop.
for a steal. Oh, Darshan didn't exactly see, but big low getting chunked down. There's the Baron going in. No, it's kept by Meteos. Wiggily tried to steal, but he could not grab it. Meteos is forfeit in the pit, but Optic rushed down the Baron and collected.
And Darshan just ran in off the TP and just stopwatched in place. It looked like he must have had his keybinds in the wrong spot, maybe thinking he was activating the Ghost Blade there or something along those lines. But, you know, losing critical seconds where he could have been potentially threatening Meteos or poking them off, and it is going to be Optic grabbing that Baron. Big move for them.
Gutsy decision does work out this time around. Gold lead still hovering around 5,000 though for CLG, so Optic have a lot of ground to make up for with this Baron.
Yeah, so here this is one more time. Darshan just running straight in and stopwatch, and I think that has to be keybinds are misplaced. We've all seen people do that before. You buy an item, you have it on the wrong spot, but it's a great smite here from Meteos to actually guarantee they get this, and I think it's the right call for the rest of the squad to just bail out. You get 4 Baron buffs out. They did kill Biofrost earlier on, so it's essentially 1-for-1 trade plus the Baron. And now we have them kind of slowly clawing their way back in. And not only is it about, you know, just getting it for yourselves, it's about denying it from CLG, because having that Baron buff is certainly one of their biggest win conditions. And Baron buff in the side lane, level 16, he has the Sterix now on Dhokla, so he is getting to a more reasonable position. If he completes his next item, maybe he can start to look to fight a little bit with that Jayce.
This is a good place for Yorick to be. Having Baron, having access to some turrets, having that split push pressure, always nice. Again, Braum finding his knockups. Good stun from Meteos, and Arrow naps the shutdown. As Power of Evil will fall, that will mean the turret goes over to Optic. Getting a kill and a turret off the Baron buff already, and Dhokla is working that tier 2 in bot lane.
Look at that bot lane. Dhokla, you know, you see Darshan running down there to answer that, but that bot lane is going to go down as well. They're going to get the mid lane turret. Vel'Koz really showing up big here, as Crown has been having almost these kills time and time again with the ultimates, being able to barely not kill someone off. Now he gets the kill. The base is unlocked. Power of Evil is a big part of their wave clear. Yes, they do still have Stixxay here, but it's Darshan having to roam back, having to join up with the squad again. They have that wave pushing up here in the top side as well, you can see. So this is going to be stacking, mid lane pushing in, bot lane shoving in here as well. You can have Optic setting up to take down even more gold and kind of close the gap here between these two teams. And this is a really well-maneuvered situation that they have gotten themselves into. You know, they were at such a deficit, and they are almost at parity now.
Yep. Under 2,000 gold stands between the two teams as Drake number 3 goes over to Optic. That means Elder Dragon will be spawning up next. That's 3 items now done for Arrow. Same for Stixxay, to be fair, but everyone feels pretty fight ready. Crown, we've already seen the damage he has done. He is close to the death cap as Arrow set this up beautifully. I missed that the first time.
That was just a beautiful arrow. Out of vision, long range. Cleanse was down for Power of Evil. And then Biofrost, I'm not sure it would have saved him even if he tanked that Sejuani ultimate. I think that Power of Evil still goes down, so I'm not going to really throw any criticism the way of Biofrost there. But either way, great combination from Arrow and Crown. Hitting that stun, setting him up, and just lighting up Power of Evil.
That was the break that Optic needed to really bust the position open. Dhokla is continuing to be a sticking point down here in the bottom lane. Optic have run out of Baron, unfortunately for them, but more than enough done to make up most of the deficit.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you can see Crown is getting dangerously close to that death cap. And that one combo potential gets that much more terrifying when that does come in. You also have to note the next is going to be the Elder Dragon. You know, both these teams having a couple dragons, certainly the extra one is on the side of Optic, so they will have the potential more powerful, rather Elder Dragon buff to actually grab up for themselves. But you're going to have to start playing an even more complicated position, as there's going to be split pushing. You're having to play around vision, not only for one side of the map, but now for both, because vision around both the Elder and the Baron is incredibly important. You have to navigate the situation of, okay, do you actually trade these buffs? You know, in which situations do you trade these buffs? And we've seen teams falter in those spots too.
You saw from that gold graph, it felt like smooth sailing for CLG for so long, but that one play to pick into the Baron dropped that gold right off CLG, who are still more than within this game, despite the setbacks recently. You can see them pushing out, invading the jungle. Meteos going to have to assault across the wall. Does get himself to safety once more.
I mean, CLG has a lot of members that can absolutely shred through these turrets. So if they win a team fight, you have a Lich Bane Viktor, you have this 3-item Sivir, the Jayce as well. All of these members can absolutely destroy structures. As you see, a couple seconds of access to that tier 2 turret, it goes down very, very quickly. So Optic, not out of the woods just yet, but in a much better position than they were. We're going to have to see continually good positioning, though, especially from someone like Crown, who has this very, very squishy champion that he is piloting, can put out tremendous amounts of damage, but if you misstep for 1 second, you can get absolutely destroyed. And a little bit of a mistake there as Sejuani grabs the blue.
Matches the champion, but unfortunately not best as far as where they wanted to deliver it. Crown's also about 500 gold or so away from the death cap, so still a bit of waiting here to do for Optic, and CLG trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Bio, though, just going to get disintegrated. Crown grabs his first kill of this game.
Yeah, that was with the flash. He just gets shredded. They're going for Dhokla, but a good self-cage. Actually just peeling out. They could actually look for a re-engage potentially.
Now they're in the arena with the maiden. Darshan gets chunked down by the shovel. And CLG, not that many angles of attack for them.
No, you're going to see Darshan, though. He's running straight to the bottom lane. They have a pushing wave down there, and he could look to threaten the inhibitor tower. Dhokla has gone back to base, will try to get down there, but it is Darshan shoving up. He's actually on that turret. Turret likely just going to go down, and Dhokla, remember, he has no ghouls, no ultimate, so he can't fight right now.
This puts Darshan in the corner, but Darshan breaks out and now start.
Oh, they're not moving
inhibitor.
because they don't want to actually give up the tremor sense there, so Optic trying to lay a trap. Not going to fall for it just yet, but they're now starting the Baron. And meanwhile, Darshan's still over in that bottom lane. Biofrost running back. Darshan does have TP available. We'll see if they commit to finishing as Crown is laying in wait on the side.
Yep, Dhokla does too. So looks like TPs can't come in just yet from the
Spotted.
top laner. Now they know Crown.
Oh, no!
Upside down ult, not what you want to see. Had to flash out, and that must have been a hard mouse pivot. But that's them off the Baron. Optic have to run away.
Yeah, Crown really gets spotted out by PowerOfEvil. PowerOfEvil makes the call to just flash straight on him. And Crown tries to flash shield, knock up, and ult backwards while flashing the other way. He fails the mechanics of it and ends up being down both his summoners and wasting the ult. So certainly they have to bail out of that situation, but they are okay for now as CLG unable to actually try to go into the Baron themselves. And it is at least a trade of flashes for the mid lane, but they do go positive a heal. So here this is one more time. You're seeing them trying to lay in wait. Crown wants them to go forward and actually get in knockup range. If he can land the full combo, he can get a kill. But he's spotted out by PowerOfEvil. So now the inputs are, you're trying to E forward, flash shield backwards, then move your mouse again and ult back the other way. But the engage coming in mid lane.
Yep, looking for it once more. CLG trying to fight as the major buffs are respawning. Wiggily caught though, has GA, will now resurrect. But Gravity Field is going to lock somebody up big with the save on the Meteos. They need to save their jungler. Ulti from Crown almost picks up a kill, but can't quite get the last few bits of health.
So close on both sides. Big barely surviving, Meteos barely surviving. Wiggily and Biofrost incredibly low. Any one of these members could have gone down, but it is CLG with a health advantage. They are onto this Elder Dragon. It has been spotted. The call is being made to trade, but PowerOfEvil's in the area. He may try to poke them off this. We'll see if CLG can even get over there to try to stop it, because the Elder does go down first, and now they're extremely powerful on the map right now. They're rushing over to try to contest Optic.
Yeah, it's gone. No ult there for Stixxay, so couldn't speed the rest over. Optic do collect the objective, but as you mentioned, it is a trade.
It is the trade, and the Baron buff will last longer, so now Optic wants to try to wait out this buff, play very defensively, allow that to expire, and then try to get something done, with the remaining seconds in that Baron. But it does also set up for the potential extremely powerful second Elder. We're getting double the power from those buffs, as well as double the duration on the buff itself. So CLG will be looking very heavily towards that.
Well, Optic, while they can, will push out these waves. So not going to be able to stick around for too much longer. Even Darshan with just a Q gets damage on an arrow, does walk around the crystal arrow coming his way. So will not be picked off then, and potentially lose his life / his guardian angel. But as CLG do return onto the map, Optic show the proper respect and back up towards their turrets.
And we are seeing Stixxay closing in on a full build here. He's already on the Lord Dominic's. He has the IE Essence Reaver plus Rapid Fire. This guy is monstrously strong. A bit more of a defensive build here coming through from Arrow, as he is going towards potentially the GA with that stopwatch, as well as a Maw. And he doesn't want to just get kind of one tapped by the Viktor, and certainly a Lich Bane Viktor with the death cap can potentially do that, so he is going to have to show that respect over.
Have to look again, though, to Crown, who's played very strong but pretty quiet game on this Vel'Koz. We've seen time and time again when they set up for combos, he is able to almost instantly kill just about any target on the CLG side. And with Stixxay going full damage with this build right now, if he ever gets caught, he will die so fast to this Vel'Koz.
He certainly will. You also have to remember, though, that it is an additional Infernal on the CLG side, and they have more members who benefit from it, right? Because Meteos and Big are both not getting much, whereas Rek'Sai is still getting a lot out of having that second Infernal. So they do have an edge there. The Elder Dragon, 20 seconds remaining on that, and then it's going to be about plus 110 or so remaining on that Baron buff for Optic. So their window is now coming up. The Elder is expiring. You need to get out on the map and see if you can get anything done with this Baron buff.
Does seem like that's Optic's plan, as they've timed things nice and accurately. So move back around, clear some of the vision that CLG's put down, and try and get some more structures and equalize on turrets. But it does feel like this game is going to develop for quite a while. We're almost at the 40-minute mark, and it doesn't feel like the game is going to end anytime soon with how the teams have played.
Yeah, certainly both teams playing it very patiently, but at the same time, with an open inhibitor in the bot lane, you know, one fight can end the game. Also worth noting, it is a Zerat coming out here from Dhokla, so committing more to that full split push. Been a long time since we've seen that item in Pro, and it's very annoying if you can't actually get access to where that Zerat is dropped. CLG does have a ward on it, so they know the area it's in, but we'll see if they can actually walk up and get access to it, as it looks like they're going to try to do now.
Yep, we'll take it down. Dhokla, you know, just playing his character's role effectively, trying to summon as many things as he possibly can.
Yep.
But it's certainly annoying, and as you mentioned, Yorick is a champion that feels best when anchored for as long as humanly possible to a side lane. So work was done in top lane, they killed the Zerat, now it's time to do the same thing down in bot lane.
And it's certainly possible that Dhokla could win a 1v1 against Darshan now. So Darshan has to kind of give that respect over, despite the fact that he was so far ahead in the gold lead. The QSS doesn't really do anything for Darshan in that 1v1, and that's really the only kind of gold discrepancy that is there whatsoever. So, you know, they're both sitting on 4 completed items plus boots, and we'll see if Dhokla can make anything happen in a side lane, or if it even comes down to that, because as of now, it's been more about Darshan pushing the waves than roaming to the team, and been more about actually the group play than a full-on commitment to kind of a suicide split push style.
Yep, Dhokla back up towards the top half as well. Zerat still cooling down. They won't be up just yet. Arrow Fishes does find Biofrost, but can't get through the 2 carries to try and find the pick.
Yeah, and that's a decent chance. I think if you hit PowerOfEvil, you probably get a cleanse, and I think that's, you know, kind of worth trying right there for Arrow, but it is going to prompt CLG to move forward. You can see along the minimap, both these top laners are splitting on opposite sides, and just Crown just drops the ulti. It is going to push them back quite a lot. It's such a short cooldown here at this point in the game. It's a 48-second cooldown. You can use that once every wave and a half, basically, but CLG looking for the re-engage. Crown is split off, no ultimate on him.
Yeah, Dhokla committed for the top side, and now Big is going to be the target. Stixxay does shred him down. And now CLG push in. Major buffs aren't up for a minute or so, but CLG looking to crack the base here.
Yeah, really well done by CLG. They're tracking the cooldowns. They know Ashe has no ult, Vel'Koz has no ult, no flash was on Big until just now, so they're going to be able to commit for that fight. They do knock down another inhibitor tower. Dhokla is still splitting. If he doesn't come back, they are likely going to lose both inhibitors here, so we'll see what the call is going to be. They may feel, hey, we can't defend it anyway, let's trade. And I think that is perhaps the decision, but it is actually CLG bailing out, so it will be one inhibitor, but it's just going to be traded. So even from the advantageous position, Optic is able to have an even 1-for-1 hit.
And Darshan, he TP'd to that play, I believe, because it is currently on cooldown.
Yeah.
Dhokla's still with his, so now it's really complicated to play these positions.
Yeah, because they have TP advantage. Stixxay does have one to answer, but you need him grouped with the team. Elder is coming up. Remember, this is a second Elder for CLG. This one is essentially the GG buff. You almost cannot contest it whatsoever. So Dhokla is actually looking to try to threaten an end. He's actually running, and you can see him, kind of secret agent Dhokla here, sneaking down the side lane. He's actually hiding in this bush, and now going straight down into the base. He's staying out of vision for now, and he wants to wait till CLG starts the Elder, and then try to potentially just run for the Nexus turrets, I think. But he's bailing out for the Baron, and these guys are both kind of skirmishing back and forth here over by the Elder. Very complex situation.
Darshan also cannot come easily. He doesn't have his TP, so he has to runner on foot, and Dhokla is trying to solo the Baron right now.
He's got the ghouls, he's got the maiden, he's on it. CLG is starting the Elder though. Will they make the call to bring Dhokla over? Remember, this is his second Elder.
Gonna just go and fight here. Darshan late to the party, but he might still be here in time to force the 5v4. Arrow hits on a Biofrost, but it's the Drake that really matters here. Elder Dragon down, it does go to Wiggily. CLG able to get the buff, and now Flash in and try and finish off the fight. Darshan flashed into the backside. Optic gets shredded, and Dhokla could not race the base or the Baron in time.
He solos the Baron, but you can't give over the second Elder. He's gonna make a run for it to try to end, but I think there's no way he can do this.
There's no one here to defend. CLG should be faster. They've got Elder Darshan back just in case. And CLG will finally put the finishing touches on Optic's Nexus as they scrappily fight and take down Optic.
It's a wild one, but CLG grabbing that second Elder. It's the GG buff, and they are gonna take it here. Grabbing another win for themselves and improving to 6-5 with this roster that we did see on stage today. So certainly gonna be happy about that win. I do believe that pulls them into parity with Optic in the standings, both sitting at 6 wins now. Their playoff hopes still alive.
You could say that about a lot of teams, I feel like, and be right 70% of the time. There has been a lot of parity in the league so far as the teams will shake hands, but CLG bring the team back in, stop a 3-game slide, and look to again try and pick up as many wins as they can. It was a hectic game, but CLG felt fairly in control. I mean, tough decisions to make on either side.
Really, really tough spot, I think, to be in for both those teams. It was a very complex game to navigate, but certainly, you know, sitting with all vision here as we are at the caster desk, it did look like Optic really needed to have 5 members at the Elder Dragon, because giving over the second Elder is just, you're never gonna win. You cannot beat that buff. It is too powerful with that second stack, and we saw that Optic got absolutely erased once the buff was secured by Wiggily. Darshan also showed up first to that Elder as it was the Baron being soloed out. And had that been the first Elder, maybe that's a reasonable play to actually go for. Have your 4-man squad try to delay, but in this scenario, CLG gets the better of it.
Well, for more on that victory, Ovely is standing by with the CLG mid laner for more on that win.
Thanks, guys. PoE, congratulations on the win for both you and CLG. Asking about kind of like the last fights, when you guys were going for Drake, did you know that Dhokla was trying to solo Baron on the other side of the map?
Yeah, Darshan called that Yorick can solo the Baron, so we needed to just force the Yorick to the Elder Dragon. And I think we got the perfect flank with me and Jayce onto it. So we just said, like, we're just going to all in the Elder Dragon, whoever gets it. We just take the fight because we are going to be 5v4. And I think we got a really good flank on that carries, and we just all flashed. Onto them, we just said, like, everyone just needs to flash on Vel'Koz because we don't have the greatest engage. So it's just like, we have like Rek'Sai, Braum, so it's like, even Viktor. So it's like, we just need to like all our flashes onto them and just win the team fight.
And it worked. Team fight won the game. Now, kind of asking you, what were your thoughts coming into this game, and what were your overall feelings? Because not only was this game crucial for CLG and their playoff chances, it was also the rematch against your old team.
Well, I was really excited facing Optic again since last time we lost against them, so it was really important for me individually. And obviously, team-wise, we needed to just win really badly since they're ahead of the standings of us. So like, not only do we get 1 win, but they get 1 lose, so it's like really important for us. And I don't think we expected the Vel'Koz, so that was for sure a surprise pick for us. But I think we handled it pretty well and didn't fall for like just the Vel'Koz trap. Like only one time I died, like where it's just like you get CC'd once and he just ults you down. I was like we kind of knew that coming into the game because I told them, and then it happened to me, so that was pretty sad.
And just really quick, because we didn't get to talk to you last weekend, rough week for CLG, we saw the 2 Academy subs come in, and you lost 2 games that were, again, pretty important for your playoff chances. So hurting the chances, did it have any other effects on the team?
Well, obviously it was really disappointing that we lost both games. Every game counts, and every win is really important. We decided to go back to what worked out for us before with the original roster. I still believe the coaching staff did the right decision, putting these players in. They had their reasons, and they just felt like this was the best possible roster at that time, and we just didn't show up on stage and couldn't get these wins. So I'm not like mad about them. It's just what they believed was right, and we now are back to the original roster and did 1 win. So I'm pretty happy.
Well, wishing you the best of luck with this weekend. Thank you again. And for more on the game, let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avili. A birthday win for Stixxay here. CLG now are tying 6th place with Optic. They're both at 6 and 9, 1-1 in the head-to-head. Could easily be tiebreakers at the end of week 9. That's still a week and a half to go till we see that one happen. Either way, though, interesting game right here. Jayce Yorick top being a pretty big one, where the Yorick got no help and the Jayce got very far ahead, and Darshan had a gigantic gold lead and then did mediocre things with it.
Well, I think from the draft we know that CLG, like PowerOfEvil just mentioned, going back to what worked, help the top lane with Darshan playing a carry, you get ahead early, and then you pick your super late game scaling Sivir and Viktor so you can wave clear forever, allows you to mess up as many times as you want and always have a way back into the game. So I think the game plan was really straightforward when we saw the draft. The execution made it take a lot more time.
I mean, it was the kind of thing where both teams are 4-1 compositions. At the end of the day, Vel'Koz, Ashe, TK, and Sejuani are obviously a 4-man team fighting comp. And so, like, whoever's top side wins is going to control the game. And so you really need to put a lot more emphasis on winning the top side matchup, because if you fall behind, it doesn't matter if your 4v4 team fight comp's a little bit ahead, you're going to be losing elsewhere on the map.
Right, but it's easy to tell someone to just go top, but Meteos didn't really have a choice to go top in the early game. Wiggily actually did a really good path where he started his red and ran all the way to Meteos' Krugs, took his Krugs, so Meteos has no more camps up there. He has to go to the other side of the map to get the farm, and he had no ability to be top anymore.
Right, I mean, that jungle percentage is not right. It's 4%, which is not enough in a carry. It's 14%, I'm told.
Okay. And the average for top laners is 7.5.
I'm going to have to double check that because I'm
I
almost
heard my ear was
positive
4.4.
And I'm also positive Meteos was not up there.
Maybe that was Rek'Sai's. Like,
who knows? Either way,
it
the
looked
point
like he got
is,
no help.
Jayce got tons of help and slammed the Yorick, took the turret, got a giant lead. And from there, it took a really long time for CLG to actually do anything with that advantage, but it was the key to the game, I think, was Darshan actually getting ahead.
Well, it's so hard. Like, where else do you gank? You're not gonna gank the Sivir Braum as a Sejuani. You're not gonna gank the Viktor mid with Cleanse. So you really just have top as your option. So it's not go top more. It's more of like, this is really the only place where you can find kills.
Yeah.
Bot lane, of course, just 2v2 forever. And
heal Braum too. Come on.
But I mean, it was kind of interesting, right? Because I like the idea of what happened there, because this is not a team that's trying to dive back line, right? It's all very like sit front to back. So okay, we have TP for lane priority, so Sivir never misses a wave. And okay, well if we do get dove, then we have heal on the Braum. So like, I get how that 2-on-2 is supposed to work. It keeps lane priority. They got 2 or 3 plates in bottom lane as a result. So CLG bot lane did really well. That worked. CLG had a lead for a very, very, very long time. But we do want to show sort of what these teams did with the mid game, because it did slow down really, really heavily. CLG got a pick in mid-game, did nothing with it. We saw later on Optic got a pick, and it didn't do very much. So we do have a clip we can kind of play out here, I believe, if we can get this one properly. Sorry about that. Here we go.
You're right, and the big thing to look at here is this is when CLG has roughly a 4,000 gold lead in the mid-game, right around 26 minutes, and they find a pick off on the enemy jungler, and you have flashes being forced by the opponent team, you're chunking out the enemy team mid laner, you have the opportunity to start Baron there, and they don't do it, and instead, it's Optic who's going to be able to force the Baron after getting a pick off onto only Biofrost. Now, CLG didn't play this super cleanly, but the fact that Optic is willing to take these risks is what allowed them to stall this game out.
It wouldn't have been a risk for CLG. The smite is not there, so you just have to play it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course that one didn't happen. We got, I think, what, 3 Barons overall for Optic, something crazy like that. But you heard it said by PowerOfEvil in the post-game interview. Darshan said, hey, by the way, Yorick can solo Baron. We must do something about this. You give him 20 seconds by himself, it's going to fall. So they 5-man the Elder Dragon. Optic chooses to contest, which, okay, kind of makes sense. The second Elder's a big deal. They had 2 Infernal Drakes, but obviously that fight got turned around, and it was Optic willing to do things that made CLG actually close the game out.
I actually don't really like the team comp from Optic that much. They have Vel'Koz and Ashe, and those aren't really characters that scale super hard into the late game. And if you are going to pick Vel'Koz, you probably want another AD carry that does better poke and or is safer. You have Tahm Kench to save 1 carry, but he can't eat both carries. And as CLG said themselves, their engage is very terrible. It's awful. They can't really engage. But Optic is constantly getting engaged on and getting killed in these fights, so they need to switch up their characters to make it so that they both can't get engaged on.
To be fair, I think that team comp is, like a lot of team comps, looks very different from ahead. Against a team with low engage, with a Vel'Koz poking you, if you're ahead of the game, you're crushing them as they can't get onto your Vel'Koz when they try and do Tahm Kench eats him. If you're Yorick is ahead because you properly played around him, then Tahm Kench can maybe ult into side lanes and force plays. Like, Optic's comp, I think from ahead can look a lot better. I just don't think they did the right moves in the early game to get there.
I just want the Ashe changed.
That too, yeah.
I don't care for the Ashe, because like she brings engage, but you have a Sejuani already.
Yep.
So just pick someone that doesn't need protection is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, either way, they did get dove on, and CLG have tied themselves up for 6th place. It's time for us to take a break. When we come back, though, we have Team Liquid versus Clutch Gaming, so don't go anywhere.
But the follow is there. Wiggily, no flash. He actually struggles to get the knock-up, but he does get it late. It's still enough, and that's first blood over to Darshan. And now they're going to keep chasing TP in for Optic, though. Chasing onto Darshan, needs one more auto for the Permafrost. Does find it. There's Crown with the laser as Meteos is able to grab the kill. Big low getting chunked down. There's the Baron going in. No, it's get by Meteos. CLG able to get the buff, and now Flash in to try and finish off the fight. Darshan flashed into the backside.
Oh no, are you okay, Mike?
Yeah, got a pretty big fender bender here.
Don't worry, State Farm's got you covered.
That's great to hear. Robin, what's going on?
Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah, I think so.
We're gonna get you a tow truck, Mike.
Thank you. Real fender bender going on here. Fender bender. Fender bender. Fender bender. Fender bender. Everybody remain calm. No reason to panic.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.